We are an innovation company. We're always working on the next gen, not just to use technology, but to give our customers the value they want. Having designers and mechanics and painters and welders and machinists and accounting and sales, I mean, all of these people work in the same facility. That is very satisfying.
Hey everybody, before we leave the final assembly building, we're coming upstairs to the executive offices to meet with Pat Horgan, who's the president and CEO, who's going to give us a little more insight into the history of the company and what makes things tick. Let's go check it out.
Fly high, touch the sky. Flying forever, reaching for the
Hey Patrick, great to meet you.
Hi, Brian. Welcome. Welcome to CubCrafters.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
You know, I'm excited to be able to spend some time with you and hear more about this incredible facility and more about the history of the company.
I'd love to do that. We've got this really cool observation deck that looks right over the facility here, right over the final assembly line. Let's start out there.
So Pat, in the final assembly building, I've had the honor to be able to tour through here, and this was the really exciting building for me because this is where things started to really look like an airplane.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated throughout the whole tour, what I was able to see is just the innovation, not only in just the aircraft, but the innovation in your processes, the craftsmanship, you know, the people and how they worked. It was just really an eye-opening experience for me. How do you maintain that kind of process?
Well, I appreciate you seeing that. I mean, it's decades of development in terms of what looks eloquent now. Has been a process that has come over time to continuously improve. You got to have great people, and if you have great people, they'll apply great processes, and it's the people times the process that gives the products that we build. Whether on the quality and innovation side, this is a production facility in terms of it's an FAA accepted production certificate, which means we have to have a very high level of quality since we're building a tier 1 product. So the quality system itself is what's driving training and oversight and internal audits and all the things that are necessary to maintain that. The other thing that's unique here is that the entire process is handled right here. In other words, our staff, we dream it up, we conceptualize, we rapidly prototype, we go into design development in whether it's the structural testing or burn testing, and then we have a full flight testing facility. So all of that is being developed here. So when you have so many of your people in the process from the beginning, the buy-in, the care, the passion for what we do, all drives into the product every day. So from the standpoint of designing something new and the innovations, we are an innovation company. We're always working on the next gen, not just to use technology, but to give our customers the value they want and use that technology to bring the product to a level that leads the market. That's how we do it.
I have to tell you, you said something that was really evident to me as I was touring around, and multiple buildings, both sides of the airport. I don't think people realize how big you guys really are. But one thing that stuck out to me is over and over I saw that you guys make almost every single part to this airplane. And there was some instances where they had said, I said, well, why are you making that? And they're like, because what was coming to us wasn't good enough. So we just said, we're just gonna make it ourselves. And it's almost like the Tesla of you know, aircraft.
Yeah.
You just do whatever it takes to just make it better and better and better.
Well, it's a great observation, and most aerospace companies today, with the complexity and the regulations on aircraft, rightfully so, it's a flying machine, but most companies are outsourced. They have a lot of other companies that are building substructures that are coming in. We're a little unique. We're still an in-source business. So you're correct. Raw materials are coming through at our fabrication plant, and we end up with a complete brand new airplane. We're not building rubber tires, avionics, engines or propellers, but everything else is built here. It brings a whole bunch of different special aspects to our business. First of all, the people, which I want to focus on. Having designers and mechanics and painters and welders and machinists and accounting and sales. I mean, all of these people work in the same facility. That is very satisfying to have a place that all of those occupations can exist in the same space. building this phenomenal product. So I appreciate you mentioning that, because it's really the essence of who we are.
And as I walked through the tour, I was able to talk to a lot of your team and some people have been here for decades. I asked people, how long you been here? How long you been here? And it was amazing at how long a lot of people have been here. However, on the other end of the spectrum, I was walking up to young kids and saying, hey, how long you been here? And they're like, well, you know, I go to school in the morning and then I come here at night, and they're helping me to develop so it was really eye-opening to see that spectrum of generations that are actually working here in the factory.
Yes, we have employees. We have an original employee that our founder employed. It's been here 37 years. And we have brand new people. We have we do internships, not just engineering type internships that you'd expect in an aerospace company. We have a local vocational school where some of our staff are actually on the board over there. I mean, we're trying to develop those people in our community that want to work in our product line. The Yakima Valley is a very interesting place. It's it's an agricultural centric place where most of your apples and hops and all these other things come from. But all of that drives the need for machinery that processes all those agricultural products, which are the very same skills that we're developing here. Machinists, welders, painters, etc. So it's an interesting place. You mentioned the size of us and unique. A lot of people live in Yakima that maybe are focused on the traditional agriculture business, don't necessarily know we're building airplanes here. You know, your work here is revealing to a lot of people what goes on here. You're right, the size and scale. We have 3 separate campuses. We have 11 buildings. We have almost 200 people. So the scale of what it takes to build this amazing airplane requires all those disciplines that you're picking up on. And yes, our people are wonderful, and that's really what makes an airplane, the people. This is the line, what we do, the way we move these airplanes. You've gotten a little look at how this works and how it all comes together here. And we want to share that because it's a special thing.
I have to ask you about these flags.
Yeah.
And I've noticed them. I haven't had a chance to ask everybody yet, but can you kind of tell me, like, why are all these country flags
To
here?
get a flag up over our assembly line, we have to have delivered a product to that country. This is a pretty successful example of the international business we are doing. We've been expanding our international business in the last couple of years. That's been a focus. One of the reasons we developed the Carbon Cub UL, the ultralight, is specifically for advancement in the European market, as well as Australia, New Zealand, South America. So this is cool. This is an airplane that we have built that's come out of this facility, has gone to every one of these countries.
I noticed in the tour that there was one aircraft that was being specially built, and it's kind of a secret, and I was told I can't talk about it, but I know it's going somewhere very special, and you're doing some incredibly innovative places. It was actually over in the completion center.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it, they were explaining to me, you know, the innovative type of things you were doing to the aircraft because it was going to a certain law enforcement agency. But it kind of hit me at that point when he was talking about it. I'm like, working with these agencies or law enforcement and militaries and special use type stuff, it almost really forces you to be on the leading edge or forces you to be innovative,
correct.
right?
That's absolutely correct, yeah. We're blessed to have not only just phenomenal customers that want their airplane for private use, but yes, we have several government agencies that utilize our airplane. We've been blessed to be a provider to them for decades, and we're continuing that. And we do develop special features for those airplanes depending on the mission that they're doing. Wildlife surveys, law enforcement. These airplanes are used on floats, on skis, on wheels. It has to bring the capacity. The other thing that reflects about our product is because we're developing the innovation and the technology for those kinds of uses, the reliability is key. It has to be an incredibly reliable airplane. And that then permeates through everything we do for everybody we build airplanes for. So again, being an FAA production certificate with all of the quality requirements that comes with that, which is bred into the people, quality comes not just from one element of saying, let's build a quality airplane. It's got to be in everything you do. So from the design to the people that are building it, the quality comes from how you build it into the airplanes. When the customer base is requiring quality and reliability that's very high level, that brings a process done right, done well, through the whole facility. And I think you're picking up on that with the people you've met and seeing it. And I'm glad that you are, because those are the elements of how we run our factory.
It's almost like you're an F1 racing team.
Yeah.
You're doing all this innovation and stuff, and then that eventually trickles down into the consumer car.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of crossover from the automotive side. The way certain race teams are able to tie into some new technology and then they make it work. And then you see it kind of prolifically go into the various race classes. That's a good analogy. We're always looking at applying the technology that's available. This is an airplane using today's technology. So when it comes to how we analyze it, the AI-based systems we're now using for simulations, engineering simulations, we're excited about these new technologies because it lets us do calculations and things at a whole new level. A lot of people just don't understand that these two-seat backcountry airplanes are involving a high level of technology in the design and development, the testing, as well as the materials we're choosing. It's not just about building a product out of carbon fiber to build it out of carbon fiber. You apply those materials where they make sense from an engineering standpoint, strength and weight, or its capability in high temperature. So we are using a plethora from various stainless and titanium and aluminum and steel. I mean, all of those materials are being carefully chosen based on how do we get the best performance out of this machine? How do we meet our customers' expectation to have atypically impressive performance? And that's what we're after. We're always about leading. We want to lead the market in terms of having the best in this class of airplane. And we say that humbly because that takes effort of these great people to do it. It's one thing to talk about being the best, and then really the scale of what it takes to be the best are the things that you're sharing and you're picking up on.
And that is clear to an owner. You know, an owner sees that, you see it in your reputation and stuff. But what an owner doesn't see, that I was able to see, is you're taking that level of thought process even into your manufacturing process.
That's right.
Being able to spend time with Robert, who is a director of all your manufacturing, he was even talking about, you know, your KPIs and metrics, and even looking at little ways of how can we shave 2% off our waste, or how can we shave, you know, 1% off this, and really looking at, you know, your constraints and where your bottlenecks were in the process, and constantly evolving and figuring out how can we even make our manufacturing better and better. That was pretty impressive.
That's absolutely correct. If you're going to go remove pounds out of an airplane, you got to go after ounces. And if you're not measuring it, there's really no way to expect an output that's on target. You got to have metrics. You got to measure it. So we're a dashboard focused company in terms of making sure that what we're doing at the macro level, how we're flowing the product is done right, and then at the cycle level, as you're sharing with, as Robert shared with you, yes, this is a continuous improvement operation. Classic manufacturing, where there's a sophistication about this line, for example. You notice you don't hear a bunch of radio squawking. You don't hear a bunch of noise. If you look out, there's very little paper out here. Every one of the captains of these stations have electronic drawing access. We're using a classic Toyota Taguchi model, manufacturing model in terms of how we're communicating. You have an add-on light system. So if there's an engineer that's needed to interpret something on a drawing that maybe is not understood by an employee, they click a button and an engineer. We don't need text and emails and all of that. Everybody in the factory has the authority to say if something actually could tax the line, it could actually jeopardize this line. There's a light, there's a big flashy red light that we don't like seeing on, but if it has to be put on, it doesn't matter. Anybody who works in this facility has the authority to push that button. What happens then is a Kaizen team arrives instantly. We have a person who's an engineer who represents that team. We have somebody from quality, some from manufacturing. They are going to go assess the problem. They're going to say, what's going on? What happened? That could be as simple as a supplier didn't produce a part on time, and for some reason the line wasn't funded on time, and now we're not going to be able to cycle the product. That's a big deal. So, or it's as simple as a flaw that we found that we've got to, change a part out and correct. Everyone is involved in the quality of the product. That's the key. You got to have everybody that understand. They have to be able to see the flow, see the operation, and understand how it flows and be part of the process. And that's the expectation the FAA has on us. When you have a quality control system, you have a quality system. The idea is if you apply that system, everybody in the factory is able to repeatedly build the same product of high quality. So that mentality for safety, that safety management system where the highest risk things are understood by the people building the airplane so that they're pouring in and all eyes are on quality, not a memo or a document, or it has to come in the culture of the people.
It's incredible that you're able to do that at the scale you guys are and the production level you guys are, and still it's a hand-built aircraft at the level it is. So Pat, I understand there's different classes of airplanes that come through this factory. Can you kind of tell me the differences on those?
As far as we know, this is the only facility in the world building in 4 different classifications of aircraft. We're building FAA certified, Part 23 certified airplane. We're building ASTM, which is an international standard light sport airplanes, so LSAs. We're building experimental builder assist kits, where the customer comes in as part of the, is the main part of the build. The customer is the manufacturer, and we're facilitating that through them coming in, building their parts, building their assemblies, and then we also build experimental kits. So all 4 of those classes of airplanes are coming, so through our facility. So one of the things you mentioned, our quality system, the robustness of our quality system. Well, even though you could have 4 different levels of quality system, a company that's building just experimental airplanes would not be required, isn't required by the FAA to have the level of rigor for testing and all of the due diligence that's required of a certified airplane, because it's a certified airplane. For us, I don't want 4 different quality systems for the product. We have 1 quality system, and it's the highest level quality system that is appropriately set and approved by the FAA, and everything else is going through that too. So even though an experimental builder assist airplane, when somebody comes in and does our builder assist and gets to build their own airplane, as it goes through the assembly plant, it's being looked at the same way, with the same quality people, the same system, so that the embedded quality in the product, the process is agnostic to that. We're just going to build a high quality airplane no matter what class it is.
I want to talk about builder assist for a second, and not as much about what the legal part of that and the 51% and all that, but I want to talk about it from a consumer, owner, pilot standpoint, because we had the opportunity to talk to somebody who's going through builder assist right now, a customer. And one of the things he said to me is what he didn't realize when he was going to come do this is that the difference and the appreciation he now has in his aircraft that he never had before, because he saw the inner workings at a level he never understood before, or he now had a true appreciation for how his aircraft was actually built. And I think there's a value or a benefit to the Builder Assist program that a lot of people don't realize before they come here to actually do it. They might be thinking, well, it'll be fun, I'm doing the 51%, the whole legal thing and all that with the FAA, but they come out with it with a totally different perspective.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And even we mentioned people just coming in for a general tour, or someone who's a prospective buyer. If somebody comes to our facility and learns what you're learning, we sell airplanes. They see the level of quality it's going in and all of the aspects. On the Builder Assist side that you're asking about, let's go back to safety. You have the operator is involved in building the airplane. They're learning about every aspect of the airplane, and they're learning and gaining confidence and understanding how it all goes together and how it functions together. That builder, by definition, is going to be a safer pilot. They just know their systems better. You've mentioned the analogy to F1 and some other, there's drivers are very involved with the development of the latest racing technology. They're involved with the development because it's a feedback loop in terms of what's going on with the vehicle, in terms of how we tune it. So having the builder involved with the actual production and actually having the builder do the production of the airplane, yes, it's a very satisfying experience for them because they're actually constructing an airplane in an environment full of professionals where they have the confidence around them. There are people that build unbelievable versions of our airplane in kit form, where we have the most complete kit in the market. They get a complete airplane and they build an airplane. That time commitment and that drive is not for everybody, but for those customers that want that, we produce that product. For those that want that experience at some level, but really don't have that time commitment, they get to do it here, facilitated here, and they know they're going to get a completed airplane. They know the airplane's going to be finished on a quicker schedule that meets their schedule, and they're getting that experience, which is way deeper than most would in terms of the hunger to understand how it all goes together.
Mm-hmm. Makes you a better pilot and a better owner, no doubt about it. Well, you guys certainly created a product that people are passionate about, and it's funny because while we were getting ready to film today, I was down in the lobby, we were scoping out the set, and somebody walked in the front door, and I was just happened to be there and went to the front and said, I saw that this is CubCrafters. I've seen that aircraft. I love it. You know, can I get a tour? It was clear that this was somebody that was so passionate about the product that just wanted, they couldn't believe it was here. They're in town for business. I mean, do you get that a lot here?
We do, and we share that passion. We're passionate people about what we do, and I love that. We're on the observation deck. This is here for that reason, so that people can experience and see the production line. We use it for educational programs for local area schools. But yeah, that shared passion, you know, they may have saw one of our airplanes land on a helipad in Dubai or climbed to 37,000 feet, and they saw something on social media, and to be able to see the local attack, wait, that's built right here in Yakima, and come to see that, we absolutely support that. And when somebody comes here to see a tour, whether they're an aviator or not, and their ability to see the care and concern and the passion that we share with them and what we put into the airplane, again, that's how we sell airplanes. People are part of the process. They get to see we're doing it right. We're doing it with care and concern to build a phenomenal product that provides the quality and the performance. More importantly, the performance and the quality have to come together. You got to build a great, high quality, reliable product, but it's got to add the value that the customer wants in their lifestyle. And we build the best performing backcountry airplane there is, and we do it because of the things you're picking on as you've gone through our facility. It takes the whole of the process, not just the builders, not just the engineering and the innovation, not just the caring and passionate leadership. All of those have to be weaved in place for the process to produce what we were able to produce.
Yep, very capable airplane. I'd like to shift a little bit into a last topic that was so evident throughout the whole build process here for me, and that is you seem to have an outstanding culture. It seems like everybody here, you know, had a lot of pride in what they were doing and what they were building. How do you maintain that? Can you tell me the history a little bit of how you got to that point?
Yeah, and you know, for us in this business, if you can't have fun building an XCub or a Carbon Cub, you need to go find something else to do, because it is enjoyable. There's a reason for that culture to be enjoyable. It all stems from our founder. Jim Richmond started this company in 1980. He was the passionate visionary. It's the man he was. That's how I would describe him, as a passionate visionary. He started with 4 or 5 people in the garage, looking at the Super Cub in a way to better that product, and developed a newsletter and wanted to be the best at maintaining and modifying and improving that product. That then led on to kind of a classic American story, where doing great with this product and then bringing on the engineering of new developments, and that leading to actually designing entirely new airplanes or new systems and bringing on full-fledged engineering capability. And then our product line has moved from maintaining and overhauling the original Super Cub platform, which is our legacy and we're still very much involved and dedicated to, then to developing the Carbon Cub and the XCub, which was a newly certified clean paper design using the latest technology for that kind of platform. So Jim's vision, his passion for what we do, remembering our legacy, I think is key. This is our 46th year. Very few American companies, private American companies, exceed past 50 years. That's for 2 reasons. One, the original passion of the founder is often not with the family or others that are in that person and that passion. Jim was good about finding other passionate people that we have and shared his passion. It was an honor to work with Jim, and he was a friend and colleague, and his way of looking at the market, understanding how the customer interfaces with the product, what the customer wants, and then being courageous. He was a courageous man and a true entrepreneur who developed what we've become, and we're taking that to the new level, and that's what he asked us to do. We lost Jim in 2021. He was absolutely focused in telling us and guiding us, the leadership, Brad and I, in terms of follow our plan. We have our plan, it's established. Continue to take the company where we've all dreamt it would be. And it's a privilege to be able to do that. We're developing new things, we're an innovation company, and we're just getting started. We got a lot more to do.
Now here's how I know that he was more than just successful in doing that. You can see the success in the aircraft and the product and things like that. There's very few companies out there that get to a point where a term is coined to their brand. At one point, these were called Carbon Cubs. And now the world looks at these and says they're Carbon Cubs. But I know that, well, no, the XCub's not technically a Carbon Cub, or this one's not technically a Carbon Cub. But he was so successful that that term Carbon Cub is what I hear from everybody.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is the name of the company is CubCrafters. We craft Cubs. Yeah. And yes, at one point we were CubCrafters. And you're right. If it's a young child with a radio control model or getting on Microsoft Flight Simulator, this is the Carbon Cub factory.
Exactly.
That's what we build.
When I ask owners, I'm like, well, why did you buy that plane? They're like, because it's a Carbon Cub.
Yeah. That iconic transition on any product. Think of it in our normal day, whether it's Kleenex or there's so many.
Or ship at UPS.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing when something becomes a iconic product. It gets to that point. What an honor, right? What an honor to be part of that. That's not something you can formulate in a marketing plan. That's something that your user community actually does. We love what we do, and if the customers want to call everything we do a Carbon Cub, the Carbon Cub XCub, the Carbon Cub UL, great. They understand what we build.
When I came into the executive offices, I saw a really unique office that was out front that was very different than anything else. What is that?
Yeah, so Jim's office, our founder, that has been converted to a customer lounge. Still has his desk. Nobody will sit at that desk again. It's a table, but you're welcome to come to the lounge. We can go check it out, but that's a customer area that was once Jim's office.
Great, let's go see it.
Let's do it. So Brian, we're in Jim's original office, our founder's office. This has been converted into a customer lounge. This is a customer space. Jim's desk is turned around, so nobody will sit at that anymore, but a lot of the memorabilia he had left in this office is here. There's a lot of legacy here. Example, Jim started this company in 1980, and he started by running a newsletter that he wrote, and his wife would mimeograph with the old style. And here's an example of those letters. These were informative Super Cub newsletters on the aircraft and how to better it and how to maintain it, how to do it right, as the guru that he was of the Super Cub. All of his original memorabilia, his Bible that was here, and the original photographs. You can see there's some original photographs of the factory when he brought those first original airplanes back.
Now I have to ask you, that building is still here?
It's still here, yeah. And some of these are the earliest shots before they were even painted. This was the very beginning. And Jim established CubCrafters as the expert on how to properly safely maintain and improve the Super Cub, and it's brought us to where we are today.
So when he started the company, it wasn't a Carbon Cub. It was basically, you're saying, the Super Cub is what started.
Yeah, the Super Cub newsletter. That's what he wrote. And he has, Jim was born in Anchorage, and his father and his family were backcountry airplane people, and the Super Cub was obviously Jim's favorite airplane, and he wanted to better the mark in terms of the maintenance of those airplanes and all the things that come with making it a good backcountry airplane. So he was really writing the guide on how to use it properly, how to maintain it properly, and that developed in how do we make it better, which is what CubCrafters' legacy is. It's about making that platform better to a whole new platform in the Carbon Cub and the XCub and what we do today.
So when he first started, it wasn't here. You said he started in his garage.
Yeah.
It was just him and somebody else?
Him and a couple of people, and I think there were 4 or 5 people, and then they moved into this new building when they started actually working on the airplanes here.
So when he moved here, how many people were at this
5
location?
or 6.
Okay. How many do we have today?
189 today.
It seems to be growing every week.
It is growing, yeah.
Where did he get the first 2 Super Cubs? Like, how did that story start in the beginning?
Yeah, there's several areas. Jim was able to get some aircraft out of Italy, and they were brought in, and then they were modified and improved. But he also, the legacy that continued was actually building airplanes from spare and surplus parts. So the Super Cub, being such a prolific airplane it is, all new parts were available at the time, building entire airplanes out of spare and surplus parts and actually building new Super Cubs that way, which then moved on to actually certifying his own when the Top Cub was certified. So that was a new certification, an FAA certification of a Top Cub, which incorporated the original plus some STCs and some improvements, just like we do today. So in our legacy, even today, we are taking the PA-18 platform. We have various STCs that make it a better airplane, and we'll never forget our legacy. We support that in our CCS, at our customer services. So still today, we're overhauling Super Cubs to make them better and keeping them alive for many, many more decades.
Now, I don't think everybody knows what you just said. I know we know of CubCrafters for, you know, the SS, the XCub, the FX3, the FX, but you just mentioned about the PA-18, and you guys are bringing these back to life?
Yeah, we are. So, and have always been. But there's the most recent initiative. We've had demand for this, where people that just have their original PA-18. These are airplanes that, of course, they're fabric covered, and engines need to be overhauled, and the fabric needs to be redone. So in the course of overhauling those airplanes, we have various STCs that are available to bring the power up to 180 horsepower. Different configurations, different landing configurations, different things that you can do to the airplane. And yes, our legacy business, CCS, we are still overhauling those legacy airplanes, and now we're doing it with a new flair where we can bring it into combining and packaging all those improvements to just make the best airplane you can have in that legacy platform.
So I like using the word legacy because in my mind as a consumer, I would think of it as I'm able to take what my great-granddad and my grandfather handed down to me for a PA-18, and I'm able to turn it into almost like a brand new Carbon Cub.
Exactly, a brand new Super Cub. Yeah. These are each one of these airplanes has a slightly different mission profile. It really depends on what work the customer wants to do. So if the fondness is the original PA-18 and the original platform, and maintaining that, these are flying. There's thousands of these flying, and we want to keep them flying and make them better. To the modern versions of this kind of platform, the Carbon Cub, the XCub, which have newer materials, newer capabilities, newer performance, better performance, with all of the things that you've become used to hearing about the Carbon Cub, with glass panel technology, carbon fiber, and all of the materials we put in. So there's an aircraft in each column for someone who wants to access the back company with our products.
So when was CubCrafters officially become a company?
Yeah, so in 1980, Jim started CubCrafters, and in its earliest beginnings. By 1986, we're here at the airport in the facility, the old building you saw. So those were the days of maintenance and improvement, and all of his original newsletter work in terms of establishing how we support this airplane, how Jim supported this airplane to make it the best airplane. That was the beginning of what led to various stages in our growth. So we mentioned airplanes coming out of Italy and modifying those, and then that moved to spare and surplus airplanes, building brand new airplanes, which led to more improvements, more STCs, bringing on an actual full-fledged engineering capability. The Top Cub, which is CubCrafters' new version of the Super Cub, if you would, was certified in 2004. We kept innovating, and as the light sport world became alive in America, the Carbon Cub was born, which was 2009.
No, was the Carbon Cub, was that like the SS, or was it its own?
Yeah, that was the beginning. Yeah, okay, so it started as a light sport airplane, as a sport Cub, which then developed as more power, and the airplane was refined, became the Carbon Cub. We're now third generation with the FX3, EX3, and the Carbon Cub, and the UL, the ultralight, which we're doing now with the Rotex powered, and what you saw us recently going to 37,000 feet with the Carbon Cub with our UL. The XCub was certified as a brand new airplane. It's our flagship airplane with more speed, more capability, more gross weight, all of those things, and it was certified in 2016. The third generation Carbon Cub came along in 2017, and the UL we introduced here in the last couple of years. So there's been this progression of taking the original platform and making it better and better and better, and having a product that meets the customer's mission. So if someone is wanting the fastest, that holds the most, and has the latest technology, we've got that platform. The Carbon Cub UL, You know, we've got a fuel agnostic engine. You can put auto gas in it. It's turbocharged. You can fly it at higher altitude and get that power boost at higher altitude. We have a different product, but again, all of that is about adding the value to the customer. That's what this is all about.
Okay. So now I know where the term Carbon Cub came from, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
So up to, unfortunately, in 2021 is when we lost Jim.
Yeah.
What was he like? What was his personality like?
Yeah, losing Jim was tough on us. Jim had, in terms of describing Jim, I met Jim about 25 years before when I joined him here at CubCrafters. When you met Jim and talked to him about something he was passionate about, there's just this instant kinship where, you know, we got together early on to talk. He found me at Oshkosh one year and we were talking about how we certify airplanes. And at the time I was running a different manufacturing company, and he wanted to know how I went about doing that. And we shared thoughts back and forth. And instantly I just knew that there was this gentleman. He was just a total gentleman. He was not, it wasn't your typical, wasn't a competitive edge. It was just someone that was pleasant to talk to, and we shared our passion for it. And that developed over the years. Jim was a true entrepreneur, a true visionary. He could really see things at different angles that others could not see. So beyond just the nuts and bolts of a Super Cub, which became a Carbon Cub and an XCub, he really understood what the customer sought, and he could really develop in his mindset, well, how do we actually make that happen? Jim was very willing, when it comes to our engineering and our development, our creativity, very willing to fail.
Fail fast.
Absolutely. In other words, you have to try things. You have to be willing to try things and know you're going to fail. To innovate requires courage, and it requires a consistency to apply that courage so that we're always going after to lead and to innovate, and doing that with vision that how it actually adds value to the customer. Jim himself was just a stoic, relatively quiet man. When you got to know him, you could see very quickly he's just a very special guy. And for those of us who spent so much time with him, we honor that, and that he really left a legacy in all of us. Jim was very clear with me. He had pulled away from the day-to-day around 2018 or so. He was still involved with the creativity and the financial side of the company, but new leadership had been brought on. Brad and myself were brought on as the next generation of senior leadership. We shared his passion. We had worked with him for years. Jim made very clear, he gave me one little piece of advice. He said, always lead, always be the leader. And that's what we're about.
Well, you're clearly doing that. And now his legacy continues on in a foundation, Jim Richmond, Backcountry Aviation Foundation. I think it's JRBAF.org. Yes. You guys are doing some great things with that organization. Yeah,
Jim, shortly before he passed away, he had been looking for properties in backcountry locations. It was a dream of his to develop private access for the use of this airplane, the freedom that it brings and the adventure it brings. And Jim had hoped to develop that. In his legacy, that's happening. Brad Dahm is the executive director. Brad's our vice president here. So we use our spare time, our private time, to support the foundation. It's totally separate from CubCrafters. But Jim's foundation has just boomed in terms of access to the backcountry is being developed by private land. There's a ranch called the 45, and there's a second ranch that you can read about on the website. And this is a phenomenal organization that is exactly what Jim was after in terms of how do you gain access to the backcountry, how to use it for educational purposes, how to use it for just fellowship in aviation. And I really suggest people check that out. It's just a wonderful charitable organization.
So JRBAF.org.
You got it.
So, great stuff. So
great stuff.
Pat, it's been an honor. It's been
a pleasure.
Great. It's been
an absolute
exciting
pleasure
to be here and see everything you guys are doing, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate what you're doing, and the fact that you took the time to really understand it. It's hard to see it all. Even when somebody comes here for a 2 or 3 hour tour, you can't see it all, and hopefully you got a real insight to who we are.
We sure did. I see some really cool things looking like my old plane over here. Let's go.
All right. This picture right here is actually a picture of the original hangar front doors that Jim Richmond.
So that's this building? Now, I think I see a PA-18 frame in there. Is that what that is?
That is exactly what it is.
We've been able to watch the journey of this incredibly capable aircraft being built. And it all comes down to this building right here, the delivery center, the last step in the process for a proud new CubCrafters aircraft owner.